Joe, we just heard the president sounding very reasonable, logical, really asking for unity and no further violence. How will this resonate with the American public?
Well, let's see. As we mentioned earlier, this is not a venue that Joe Biden has used very often, and he's typically not in Americans' living rooms at this hour in prime time here, at least on the East Coast in the United States. He said things very simply. He only spoke for about 7 minutes. And we do need to bring ourselves back to the facts. We don't actually have that many of them following what occurred yesterday in Pennsylvania, the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Joe Biden just said, reminding us of the moment. A former president has been shot. An American citizen was killed. He invoked Nancy Pelosi's husband. He invoked Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, the kidnapping plot that was foiled against her. January 6th, the composite of political violence that for some has been normalized in this country. And he said the political rhetoric has gotten very heated. We need to cool it down. Whether people listen to Joe Biden or not, that is a consistent message for him. And he says he'll be on the road this week as the Republican National Convention gets underway here in Milwaukee. And as Joe Biden just told Americans, they will surely be criticizing his record. The idea here is that we do so peacefully.
Exactly to your point, Joe, how do you tone down the rhetoric and the concerns? Because we're seeing people that are being polled that are actually expecting the reverse, that we could see further political violence ahead.
That's right. That's right. And this remains a distinct possibility. This is why we're trying very concertedly at Bloomberg to not be projecting or predicting. The fact of the matter is, we saw some very powerful images yesterday of Donald Trump, blood streaming down his face, his fist in the air. And before he left the stage, he said, fight, fight, fight. There are a lot of angry people in America right now, and there might be a sense that retribution, some sort of reaction, should follow in this particular case. That is what the Secret Service and the FBI are trying right now to prevent. But the fact is, you're right. Our own polling has borne this out, that Americans are deeply concerned about political violence surrounding this campaign and surrounding the election itself in November. It will be incumbent upon both of these men, Joe Biden and Donald Trump, to lower the temperature and keep that from happening. One will not be able to do it alone.
And Joe, of course, you're in Milwaukee because of the Republican National Convention. How will the events over the weekend and what's transpired in the last 24 hours or so affect this gathering?
It's a great question. We have seen some hardening of the security perimeter. There's just an enormous level of security here, law enforcement, thousands of law enforcement from 40 different agencies. And there has been talk of expanding the perimeter a bit. The question we have is about messaging. Speeches are being rewritten right now. The program is being reset for what's a 4-day event culminating in the nomination and the nominating speech of Donald Trump on Thursday night. We have yet to learn who his running mate will be. That is something that will likely be told in the next 24 hours or so. But I'll be very curious to hear what calls for unity we hear from Donald Trump, any additions or subtractions from the speaker schedule, and what the rank and file think. There are 50,000 people here in Milwaukee to take part in this exercise. Many delegates have traveled from around the country to take part in this. And we like to think that it will resolve into a message of unity and positive action. We'll have 4 days to figure that out, and we'll have special coverage here from Milwaukee as we learn together on Bloomberg.
Joe, do you think that this is the moment that sort of galvanizes or forces the decision of independents or undecided voters?
Mm-hmm. It's a good question. Again, hard to tell. It was interesting to see the snap endorsements following the shooting yesterday from the likes of Elon Musk and Bill Ackman, and you wonder if that was representative of a certain demographic of Americans here, fence sitters, as you said, undecided voters. We also have something in this country called double haters. That's what the pollsters like to call them, who don't want any part of Joe Biden or Donald Trump. And I'll be very curious to see what happens to that number. That's about 10% that these two men are fighting over here. In critical swing states, only 6 or 7 of them that will decide this election. That is really how narrow this is. And when you have such powerful optics as we saw yesterday, following the potency of age and the questions of mental acuity surrounding Joe Biden, there is so much noise right now that it's very difficult to answer these questions. And that's why our coverage here in Milwaukee is going to be so important.